Is Markelle Fultz's NBA career over after getting his rights renounced by the Orlando Magic? It is being reported that there aren't very many teams interested in him as of right now. If this is it, we're going to talk about his career retrospective as a whole for his 7 years in the NBA, which sounds crazy to say, and with the Orlando Magic, and what could also potentially be up next for him. But first, guys, before we get into that, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. 90.6% of you guys who are watching these videos aren't subscribed. 9.4% are, so join the 9.4%. We're trying to build an Orlando Magic basketball community here on YouTube, and the easiest and best way to support the channel is by subscribing on YouTube. Here we are. Now, let's go into the initial report that kind of just came out last Thursday about not very many teams being interested in Fultz services before we kind of get into his Orlando Magic basketball career. Well, Brett Siegel of Clutch Points did report that he hasn't commanded much attention in free agency around the NBA to this point, but that it would be surprising if he isn't on a roster at the start of training camp. Now, obviously, that is a glass half full mentality, and I do think he will be on a roster by training camp, but as of right now, after the Magic have renounced his rights, he's not really, getting a ton of attention as far as the NBA is concerned. And it makes sense because he was getting paid $17 million last year, so if he's trying to demand that kind of price tag, now we don't know, probably not going to get it. And I think that was what him and his camp realized with the Orlando Magic as they signed KCP, they signed Corey Joseph. Wasn't going to get that, those type of dollars that he ended up getting paid on his last contract with the Orlando Magic. Now, why exactly, if you're kind of new here, the Orlando Magic aren't going to go ahead with him? Well, he just doesn't fit their timeline. I've mentioned this in other videos where teams are, either in a win now mode or in building. The Magic are in a win now mode. They're going to be in cap purgatory in the coming years. They're not going to be able to pay a guy like Markelle Fultz, especially when they need shooting. He can't really provide that, and when they also can only provide two-way deals. They've filled up their entire active roster, and obviously Markelle Fultz is not looking for a two-way deal as of right now. So they're just kind of on different paths right now. It's a long time ago from those promising days that he had with Wendell Carter Jr. before Paolo, maybe the first year of Franz, kind of before this new age of Magic players showed up. He's kind of been phased out. So the Orlando Magic aren't really looking at his services right now to be super valuable. Now, that's where he stands currently. We'll get into a little bit at the end here what teams he could potentially go to. Right now, it's the market is very silent, but we'll talk about that and where he could potentially end up because obviously, like I said, it won't be back with the Orlando Magic. Now, his career with Orlando, it kind of makes you emotional whenever you've watched this team and the different kind of rebuilding situations that they've had over the last 5 years. He's kind of stuck through it all. Been there, either on the sideline whenever he was hurt or not. But we acquired him. We acquired him from the Philadelphia 76ers after those tumultuous first 2 years where they were in the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid era, and people were like, why isn't Fultz playing? What is going on? The shoulder injury was a mystery. You had no idea what his confidence was like. Why is his shooting form so bad? Why is he airballing free throws? Truthfully, he's come a long way since then. Now, he still obviously needs to figure out his shooting form, but when the Orlando Magic were the island of misfit toys and they were acquiring guys to try to rebuild their career, taking chances, Markelle Fultz was one of those first guys that was brought over. And we thought that we could end up fixing his shot, give him an opportunity to be that number one point guard. And for a second there, he was. He was super promising. Now, obviously, other injuries and other circumstances ended up kind of cutting the line in front of him a little bit. He tore his knee up in one of the earlier years that he was with the team. Missed 13 months, played 26 games total in 2 years. Struggled to stay healthy his entire career. Only passed the 20-game mark 3 times in his 7-year NBA career. Obviously, that's kind of been the story. And when we look back at his career legacy and his career with the Orlando Magic, it's going to be injuries. That's how you're going to chalk it up to. Couldn't get that shot right with whatever kind of nerve damage he ended up having in that shoulder. Just wasn't able to overcome it. But there were times where he showed big-time flashes with the Orlando Magic. I remember writing about it. I remember saying he's the point guard of the future for this team. I was buying it. I was buying stock into Markelle Fultz. Obviously, that is not going to be the case. He will not be the Orlando Magic's future at the point guard position. That could potentially be Jalen Suggs, and that's okay. Maybe it's maybe it's for the best. Markelle Fultz can find another home. Whenever you think about his career, I think a lot of people do think about him with the Orlando Magic. You don't think of those Sixers days. You think about his time with Orlando when they gave him a shot, gave him a chance, gave him an opportunity, and I think that that's kind of what's great about it. Now, as far as his career legacy, I think people are going to obviously look at him like a bust. Now, I don't want to talk about it like that because obviously he's still in the NBA making millions of dollars and obviously playing a game that he loves for a living. He's just lucky that he's able to do it based off of some of the reports about how he was first injured. But obviously he's going to be put into that category drafted in front of some of the stars that we see today. Kind of an unavoidable thing whenever we're talking barbershop talk or NBA legacy talk, but strictly from a personal perspective, gotta love, and as a Magic fan, gotta admire the blood, sweat, and tears that he put into the Orlando Magic for 5 years. Now, where exactly could he end up going? Right now, I think we're seeing reports from the Trailblazers and the Detroit Pistons. Now, these are obviously teams who are in a very similar position that the Orlando Magic were in 5 years ago, where they can take a chance on a guy. They got that cap space. Maybe they'll pay him the minimum, above the minimum. Right now, he's one of the better options that's left out in free agency, so he's got that going. Gordon Hayward just retired, so if they were in the midst of either getting him or Markelle Fultz, well, it limits the options that some of these teams can have. I think right now for Markelle Fultz, I think he's probably just taking a step back, going to assess what he's asking for. I don't know if he's asking for anywhere above the minimum right now, but just seeing exactly where that could end up. Maybe he is more interested in getting signed during the season when a team is looking to replace a guy who's injured or making a final run and they want to get a guy on a 10-day. Maybe he's looking for that, but I think he's probably looking for some more stability, and I would be too if I was Markelle Fultz. And that team, you're right, you want to go to a good situation, so you want to make sure that the situation's right, but that stability is what's best. You want to make sure that team is good, and can put your best foot forward, but beggars can't be choosers, and at a certain point, obviously, you're going to have to go to a team that's willing to take the chance on you. So who knows where that might be. Obviously, Markelle Fultz's career hasn't panned out to the way that he would have wanted it so far, but he's still out there playing basketball, and it's not over just yet. Now, I personally do think he will be on a roster come training camp time. Now, guys, let me know what you think. What do you think whenever you think about the time that Markelle Fultz spent with the Orlando Magic? Do you think fondly? Do you think poorly? When you think of his NBA career, how do you think he'll be remembered? I'm very interested to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Obviously, I am kind of in a sadder state, but I choose to remember the good times that he was on the Orlando Magic. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. A little bit of a different video today, just kind of talking about Markelle Fultz and reminiscing on his NBA career. But next time I see you guys, it'll be with more Orlando Magic basketball news. But until then, I'll see you later.